and welcome back to BirdNoise, an Eagles fan podcast. However, you don't have to be an Eagles fan to listen to this podcast. I am your host, Dominic Estes. Today I will be predicting all of the Week 14 NFL matchups, starting with New England at Pittsburgh. New England is coming off of a loss in one of the games of all time. They lost to the LA Chargers 6-0. Where to start with this game? It was bad. Bailey Zappi started instead of Mac Jones. He didn't throw either a touchdown or an interception. So I guess there's that. But it was a 6-0 loss. You have to get points on the board. It is very evident that things need to change in New England, whether that is Bill Belichick being let go. I know he's a great head coach, but I think some things need to change, and it needs to start with him. Either he needs to let go of the general manager position, or he needs to be released as the head coach. The offense needs to change. Mac Jones can't run this offense, which is saying something, because this is the offense, or at least the person calling the offensive plays is the same guy who called them for him at Alabama. So the Pats need to figure out if they're going to tank for a better draft pick, if they're going to try to win whatever games they have left. At this point, the Patriots are better off tanking and getting that second, third, fourth pick somewhere in there than they are to win games. The Steelers, they're coming off a loss too, but they lost to the Arizona Cardinals. The Steelers have been an interesting team this year. They fired Matt Canada a few weeks ago. The offense took off the week after he was fired, and then they hit a brick wall against the Cardinals. The defense has been good all year, kept them in games, kept them to where you only need a few points from the offense in order to win this game. And that's good because they have been in neutral till the fourth quarter, and then they'll kick it into high gear. But this week, they're without Kenny Pickett. He suffered an injury against the Cardinals, and so the starting QB this week for the Steelers is Mitch Trubisky. While he is a serviceable backup, he's not a starting quarterback, and he should be able to do just enough for the offense to get them past the Patriots. This rivalry between the Patriots and the Steelers used to be something when Tom Brady and Big Ben were both duking it out in the late 2010s into a mess. The Patriots turned bad and the Steelers are mediocre. But Steelers win. Next up, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Atlanta Falcons. This is a tank division matchup. Tampa Bay is coming off a win against the hapless Panthers. Although the Panthers held their own against the Buccaneers, it was only a 3-point win. But it was only a 3-point win. That offense for the Buccaneers has gone downhill in a hurry. The defense has stayed strong, but the offense has just collapsed. The Buccaneers still trying to figure out life after Tom Brady. Is Baker Mayfield who they're rolling with? Do they want to try and get somebody else? Who needs to be fired? Who needs to be kept? It's going to be a busy offseason for the Buccaneers. The Falcons are coming off of a win against the New York Jets, and they're still trying to figure everything out too. If Arthur Smith is the coach they want, and who needs to stay on that team? Who's going to take the ground game to the next level with Bijan Robinson? Who's going to help Desmond Ridder develop into this QB of the future that they so desperately need? So This is going to be a close game, but I think the Buccaneers win it. They tie the Falcons for the lead in the NFC South and potentially put themselves in the driver's seat for that division. Following that, you have the Detroit Lions taking on the Chicago Bears. Wait. We just had this game. I am going to take a moment here and just say that I, for one, do not like two teams playing against each other in the span of 3 to 4 weeks. The Eagles have had to do it against the Giants for like the past 4 seasons, and it gets frustrating. I know that the schedules don't always work out, but try to spread division games out a little bit. It just makes them more interesting. So, yeah, back to the Detroit Lions versus the Chicago Bears game. Detroit's coming off a win that was closer than it should have been against the Saints. They jumped out to an early 21-0 lead. Then they let the Saints claw their way back. But then Derek Carr got injured and the Lions were able to survive and win the game. But it's clear that their defense has some problems that need to be addressed in these upcoming weeks in order for them to stay in playoff and possibly Super Bowl contention. On the other side of the field, you have the Chicago Bears, who are not having a good time. Their team is a mess. They had high hopes at the beginning of the season, which were instantly shot down by the Green Bay Packers, just dominating them week 1. And then their QB got injured. Their defensive coordinator started getting investigated by the FBI. Everything just went nuts for the Chicago Bears, and it showed on the field. They have not had the record that many of their fans have hoped for. They're trying to figure out if they want to keep Justin Fields. They have at least 2 of the top 3 picks in the NFL draft next year. And if they use those on wide receivers, they could easily upgrade that team immediately. However, they also have the option of using it on a defensive and an offensive player, 2 defensive players, a QB and a wide receiver. You can have all sorts of potential mix-ups with those 2 picks right out. You can have all sorts of potential mix-ups with those 2 picks right at the start of the draft. All the good players will still be on the board. So the Bears also need to figure out if Matt Eberflus is staying or not. I feel like he's probably on his way out. But the Bears have some tough decisions coming up in these upcoming weeks, and the Lions get this win. After that, you have the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. The Colts are coming off a big overtime win against the Tennessee Titans. I don't think really anybody saw that game going into overtime. I thought the Titans wouldn't. I thought it wouldn't be as close as it was, but it was a good game. The Colts are trying to make the playoffs with Gardner Minshew. The Colts are a feel-good story this year. Their QB went down for the year. Their backup, it was well beloved when he first started playing in the NFL. And they're just a team that hasn't done well for the past few years, that's suddenly kind of trying to rise back to the top and into the mix of things. The offense looks a lot better with Shane Steichen taking over as head coach. He was good as an offensive coordinator in Philly. I think that the Colts made a good call hiring him. But I do think that the Colts will be a feel-good story if they're able to secure a playoff spot and make the playoffs It's just a matter of winning these games. The Bengals are coming off a big win on Monday Night Football where they played the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jake Browning looked very capable of running the offense for the Bengals. He stayed touchdown for touchdown with the Jacksonville Jaguars. There was some sloppiness of the game. That Tyler Boyd trick pass that he threw right to a Jacksonville defender. But the Bengals have made it clear that they are not going down in the AFC without a fight, even though they have lost their QB for the year. I do have more trust in Gardner Minshew to make the playoffs and win games than I do in Jake Browning, so I am going with the Colts on this one. Following that game, you have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Cleveland Browns. Both of these teams are coming off of big losses. Jacksonville lost a tough, close game in overtime. Not only did they lose the game, they've also lost their quarterback for a few weeks at least. Trevor Lawrence went down with an ankle injury. He will be out for a few weeks. CJ Beathard is now their backup, and so they're in a mess. They're trying to stay ahead of the AFC South and get that playoff spot, but it's starting to look iffy for a lot of teams to make the playoffs. Cleveland, they started Joe Flacco, and they got their butts beat by the Rams. They just haven't looked good in a few weeks. They've lost Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Deshaun Watson. He hasn't been playing like Deshaun Watson, who played for the Texans the first few years. It's a mess over in Cleveland, and so I think that Jacksonville will be able to move past them and get this win. After that, you have the Carolina Panthers taking on the New Orleans Saints. This is not going to be a good game. The Panthers are having a really bad year, and the Saints aren't much better. Depending on if Derek Carr plays or not, this could go multiple ways. If Jameis Winston has to play, at least the Saints have a decent backup to play. So regardless, the Saints should be able to get the win with this game. The Panthers, they fired Frank Reich, and they looked a little bit better, but it's still rough, and they're just in a bad spot right now. So New Orleans gets this win. Following that game, you have the Houston Texans taking on the New York Jets. The Texans, coming off of a big win against Denver last week, they really crushed a lot of hopes with that. Denver falls a little bit further down the playoff ladder, while Houston has a better chance of getting into the playoffs now. CJ Stroud has looked phenomenal during the year. There have been a few times when his defense has had to step up and take some of the slack and win some games for him, but Houston has been a very surprising team this year, which is good for football and good for fans. They wanted to see CJ Stroud succeed. He has elevated that team, and that's what good quarterbacks do. They elevate the players around them to be greater than they are. They're taking on the Jets. The Jets just announced that Zach Wilson will be starting this game. I picked the Jets to win against the Falcons last week. I came close. It was 13-8. I said that the defense would keep the Jets in the game. The defense did. CJ Stroud has not had to go against a defense like the New York Jets, I don't think. And so I'm still going to go with CJ Stroud and the Texans to win this game. It'll be closer than people think it will be. But the Jets are in bad shape. They're done with this year. They're just trying to get to next year. Texans win. Following that, you have the LA Rams taking on the Baltimore Ravens. The Rams coming off a big win against another AFC North team. They look pretty decent. They've still got some key pieces. They've got Matt Stafford still. They got Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Aaron Donald still there, taking sacks, causing mayhem on the front lines. And they are a mid-level team. They're still you're still trying to figure out if they're going to be good week in, week out, and be able to try and make a push for the playoffs or not. But they're taking on the Ravens. The Ravens are one of the best teams in the AFC. They do have problems struggling with teams that a lot of people think they should have no problem winning against. We're getting close to the point in time when Baltimore starts looking human, slowing down a little bit, pieces start crumbling. The Ravens are coming off a bye. They just watched what the Rams did to the Browns on Sunday. They're trying to figure out how can we prevent that from happening to us. I think that the Rams are going to surprise some people. I think that the Rams will win this game. They've already shown that they can take down one AFC North opponent. And they're in for a tough game. But I think the Rams might be able to get the Ravens on this one. After that, you have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. Both these teams are coming off of a bye and some rough losses. The Vikings, they didn't look good at all on Monday Night Football against the Bears. Josh Dobbs was rough. He played like a backup. He's a great feel-good story. You hope things work out for him. So I think that they need to work on Josh Dobbs getting more comfortable in that system. He has only been in Minnesota for like a month, so he gets a little bit of leeway with that. But this is a game of two bad turned slightly good teams. The Raiders were bad. They fired Josh McDaniels. Now they're better, but they're not great. They are competing with teams now, though, so it should be, things are starting to look up for the Raiders if, their owners don't go nutso on them like they do sometimes. I'm going to take the Raiders to win this game. I think their defense and their passing game and their running game should be able to get going and make some plays against this Vikings offense. So, Raiders win. Up next, you have the Seattle Seahawks taking on the San Francisco 49ers. The Seahawks and the 49ers met on Thanksgiving, and it was bad. I expect nothing else from the Seahawks. They just got bullied by the Dallas Cowboys. They have a very tough schedule ahead. They at their Thanksgiving game, they had San Francisco, Dallas, San Francisco, Philly. Those are those are three teams that you don't want to mess with. They're all three playoff contenders, and it's been a rough stretch for Seattle. Their offense hasn't looked good the past few weeks, and it's bad time for Seattle to be facing San Francisco, who just got a win against the Eagles. Not only a win, but they dominated that game after the first quarter. They made a lot of adjustments, perks to them. They definitely wanted that game more than the Eagles, and so they just dominated them on the ground, in the air, defensively, offensively, all aspects of that game they dominated against the Eagles. And so it's an easy pick for me to say that the 49ers are going to win this game. It's not going to be pretty. After that, you have the Buffalo Bills taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Bills were on a bye last week, so they got to rest up, much needed for them. And now they travel to Kansas City. Their offense has been looking a lot better since Ken Dorsey got fired. Josh Allen's been looking a little bit better at times. He needs to keep the turnovers to a minimum in order to stay with Patrick Mahomes in this Kansas City offense. This is a battle of two teams that are trying to figure things out. The Bills are trying to figure out their identity. They've fired their offensive coordinator. They're trying something new, trying to stay in the playoff hunt. They keep losing these good games. And then you have the Chiefs, who their defense is phenomenal, but then their offense can't catch anything. And it's just not what we've expected from a Kansas City offense of late. They still have Patrick Mahomes, so anything is possible. But I don't expect this game to be as game of the year worthy as the 13 seconds game a few years back. It's still going to be good, but I don't think it'll be quite as entertaining. But Buffalo has more weapons on offense right now with Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, Dalton Kincaid. Those guys are going to step up. They're going to get this W for Buffalo. Buffalo wins. Kansas City, you need to figure your stuff out. After that, you have the Denver Broncos taking on the LA Chargers. The Broncos, a tough loss against the Texans. They looked decent. They had a win streak going. They're trying to get back in this playoff hunt. I think that this game means a lot to them. They have to win this game if they want to stay in the playoff hunt. And they're starting to figure things out, what they can do, what they can't do, what Russell Wilson can do, what he can't do, how to take all of that pressure away from Russell Wilson by spreading the ball out, running the ball, good defensive plays, all that good stuff. Meanwhile, the Chargers won a game against the Patriots 6-0. They didn't score a touchdown. It was 2 field goals in the second quarter, and they looked rough. They desperately need something to change. I think that it needs to be a new head coach to try and get Justin Herbert back to where he once was and get that team into playoff contention. But the Denver Broncos are easily going to run away with this game, I believe. And yeah, Denver wins and the Broncos country rides on. And then on Sunday Night Football, you've got the high-flying Philadelphia Eagles versus the Dallas Cowboys. Maybe the Eagles aren't as high-flying as they were, but they're still the number 1 seed in the NFC right now. They are coming off a big blowout loss to the 49ers. They looked bad on all aspects of the game. Their rushing game was non-existent. Their passing game struggled. The defense was Swiss cheese. It was bad. They need to right the ship immediately if they want a shot at the NFC. If they want a shot at the top seed and their division title. Right now, they're only a game ahead of the Cowboys. If they win this, they lock up the division for the most part. They have to win a few more games, and then they'll have it locked up. But they need this win. They need to right the ship, get the run game going, work on all of their mistakes, minimize those mistakes, get pressure off Jalen Hurts, and they'll be fine. On the other side of the ball, you have the Dallas Cowboys. They're destroying bad teams left and right. The Eagles are not a bad team. This should be a very close game. The Cowboys, their offense is noteworthy. It's good. Dak Prescott's got some wide receivers. The run game exists. They need to do something, or they might end up with a new head coach. Although personally, I'm a fan of McCarthy staying just because he really hasn't done anything with the Cowboys, and he has 2 really embarrassing playoff losses against the 49ers. This is going to be a very close game. The Eagles won the first matchup. It's hard to beat a team twice. The Eagles need to do exactly that. Dallas has been looking really good lately. They have a lot of momentum rolling in. And this is in Dallas, so it's a hostile environment for the Eagles to go play in. I am going to go with the Eagles, of course, because they're my team. But I am very nervous about this game, and I don't like how nervous I am about this game. Then on Monday, we have a doubleheader. The first game of the doubleheader is the Tennessee Titans versus the Miami Dolphins. The Titans coming off a tough overtime loss to the Indianapolis Colts. They're again trying to figure everything out. Trying to figure out their new quarterback situation. What they're going to do with Ryan Tannehill. Are they in the middle of a rebuild? There are a lot of questions that need to be answered very soon. The Dolphins, they're swimming fast through the seas of bad teams, and this is, by definition, a fight against a bad team. The Dolphins have been blowing up the bad teams, lighting up defenses. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, they're just about unstoppable sometimes, and they should be very capable of handling their business on Monday Night Football against the Titans. Miami wins this game by at least 2 scores. And last, you have the Green Bay Packers taking on the New York Giants. Everybody knows how this game is going to go. The Packers have been looking really good lately, with Jordan Love lighting it up against the Lions, and then against the Chiefs. There were some controversial calls in that game against the Chiefs, including that defensive pass interference that didn't get called. So the Packers kind of got bailed out on that one. But they're starting to find their rhythm and get back into the swing of things, while the Giants are floundering in midair and trying to save their free fall as best they can. But it's not really doing much help. Daniel Jones is out for the year. They're stuck with Tommy DeVito, and it's bad for the Giants. Not much needs to be said about this game. Green Bay wins, and Tom Grossi is happy.